Good evening, everyone. Pastor Michael Mudloff here on your August 19 Wednesday evening video update. We've got a lot of things to talk about, or I do tonight, so I want to get right to it. But want to thank you for joining me this evening and ask that everyone would be prayerful over the next couple of weeks as students of all ages head back to school in one form or another, whether they are brick and mortaring it or onlining it or whatever they're doing. We have all manner of variety. And of course, homeschool families too, of which we have several and more than we've ever had before for obvious reasons. So lots of variety, and the schools start up this fall from elementary to secondary to college and beyond. But be prayerful about that for our students and our teachers and our parents, many of whom are now teachers. But I want to begin with talking about a survey that we sent out recently to the families at Westkirk who have children. So the families of children were sent a survey because we are working hard to think through how we might offer a discipleship program for our families, for all of us really this fall. We know because of COVID and the challenges that faces with social distancing and that sort of thing, that we have some limitations here in our church facility. Obviously, we can't do Sunday school with the number of people who would attend in a normal situation with the kind of distancing that it requires these days. So we thought, well, let's try to do some discipleship on Wednesday nights. But before we start planning things, without even knowing how people feel about it, let's kind of focus in on our families with children and see if they would be interested in coming and being here in person for a Wednesday evening program. If not, would they be interested if we recorded it or perhaps even live streamed it? And if they aren't willing to come or don't feel comfortable coming live, would they do the live stream or recorded format? And so we focused on the families with children, and we sent the survey to them, and we had several responses, a really good response with a lot of answers and comments that were very helpful for us. The first question we asked was, would your family participate in a Wednesday night discipleship program in the building during the upcoming school year? Of course, things change, but given circumstances that are here today, would you do that? And of the families that we surveyed who responded, 10 of them said yes, 11 of them said maybe, and 4 said no. And of course, there were comments. So as you would imagine, many of the comments had to do with mitigation efforts. Would masks be required? Some families said if masks are required, yes, we'll come. Others said if masks are required, we probably won't come, and that sort of thing. So we have that whole range, as all churches do, and it's of course been a challenge to remain unified as a body of Christ amid all of the diversity that we have among members and attendees with the various views on the mitigation efforts with COVID. Interesting thing about that group, answering the first question, all 4 of the families that said no, they wouldn't come in person, said yes to the second question, which was, would you participate as a family on Wednesday in a Wednesday night discipleship program that was online in some fashion, recorded or live streamed? So we know from those 4 families that if we did offer something online, that they would participate. But the other families, all the families had an opportunity to answer that second question too. And of them, 14 said yes, they would consider participating in an online format on Wednesday nights. The number of maybes dropped to 8, and the number of no's said 3. And that was interesting too, because session met Monday night, and we talked about this together. And some of the comments on the no families had to do with the amount of screen time that potentially students would already be receiving if they were doing school online. Would we want to do another online thing, a church online thing? Others just really aren't in favor of online, and one of them just would rather just be here in person. So with that information, session decided on Monday evening that we would move forward and ask the staff to move forward in planning a discipleship program for the fall. And the current plan is to offer it here in person for those families that wish to come with our current policy in place for COVID mitigation. And then we would make it available in some kind of online format. Now, as I say that, our stream team members are freaking out because I haven't talked to them about it yet. So don't tell them if they're not watching this evening. But I will be contacting them very shortly so we can find out if live stream is an option for us on Wednesday night. If it is, we will try to do that. It will not be the same level that we have on Sunday mornings. It will be something simple. And so we'll probably have a Wednesday evening worship component that we often do, or we always do on Wednesday evenings, and then a very brief teaching time with some opportunity for the children and the students and possibly even adults to have some kind of learning activity afterwards. We need to be reminded, of course, that the level in which you do teaching to elementary, pre-K, elementary, secondary, and adults is different. So that makes it quite a bit of a challenge, but we will work on that as a staff and come up with something. But I also want to let you know that when we unveil that, and we'll do it as soon as we can, it probably will not start the Wednesday night after Labor Day. I'm not sure we'll be ready for that. And it may not go 10 or 12 weeks like a typical semester would in the fall or the spring. So we'll see what we can come up with, what kind of curriculum might be available, or what we might develop on our own. And of course, we'll keep you informed. But the goal is to have something available for folks who come here and then have that or a portion of that also recorded for folks who wish to stay home. And of course, you know, that just like we've discovered with our live stream on Sunday mornings, that's going to become very relevant soon when cold and flu season comes along. Because as you know, we've asked folks, and we see it all the time, that if anybody has any symptoms of any kind of illness at all, we want them to stay home. So we expect there will be more of that. And so families who wish to come and do come for a time may find that a member of their family gets cold, and so they end up staying home for a week or two or more, or however long it lasts. So that was our fall survey on programming. Went out to families with children, and we are very thankful for everyone who responded to that. And it was very good feedback, good results, and good comments. So we're thankful very much. Wanted to, since we're talking about that, review our COVID policy. You know, you'll remember way back in May when we were preparing to have church on Sunday mornings, corporate church with people present in the building. We put out a policy, I guess it was called Resuming Corporate Worship at Westkirk, and I wanted to just go over those things. And it's not because we're having massive problems on Sunday mornings with people, you know, managing the policy. And following the guidelines that we've set. But it seems like we haven't talked about it in a while, and it's a good time to give a reminder of that and ask you all, because we do have some exceptions, and we also have some folks that are struggling with it, and for good reason, because nobody likes it. None of us like it. Even the strong mask advocates don't like it. We don't want to wear masks. But it's a policy that we have, and every month session, for one reason or another, has opportunity to kind of review it. And really, I think the rule of thumb for us is, has anything changed? Has anything changed that would give us reason to change the policy? You know, when this began, we all thought this was going to be a 3 or 4 week, 1 or 2 month kind of thing, and it turns out it has not been a 3 or 4 week or 1 or 2 month kind of thing. And so we're kind of waiting to see how this is going to go and what will happen. I think we expect that the next time there's a big change will probably be when this vaccination is available. People will think differently about it. We'll have more information. We'll know how the fall went, how things are going at school, and your elders will think about all those things and adjust the policy. We've adjusted it a little bit. We've made some changes based on how we began seating people and in church on Sunday mornings to allow us to continue to practice good health um, uh, practices and get as many people in as we can. Because as you all know, we have fixed pews at Westkirk. We can't just move all the chairs around and maximize our space, so we have some limitations here. But our policy is that we continue to have our current 10:30 service with live stream, and we're really thankful for the live stream. It has been a huge blessing, not only to the folks who, for one reason or another, their comfort level, their health conditions, the health of family members that they care for, have chosen to stay home, but also to many of our people who have moved away, and to folks who even are across the globe. Some of our missionaries and other families that we know globally have been watching our live stream, and that's been a blessing to them. And so we're really thankful. Our shut-ins, our homebound folks, it's been wonderful, and we're glad to be able to have it and to be able to do it. And so that's great. We do not restrict worship on the basis of household size or age, so we didn't get into any of that. We trust that people make healthy decisions for themselves and whether or not they ought to be there. We use our reservation system. That's been going very well. It helps us to know how many people are coming or desire to come so that we can plan ahead with a seating arrangement that allows for most people to get in, so that we know if we need to provide some overflow seating, and most especially so we know the level of interest. At some point, we assume still that we're going to go back to 2 services, and we want to be able to do that. But it's not worth all of the effort and the number of volunteers we need to have to go to 2 services until we have a time where we're consistently having more people desire to come and be present than what we can currently seat. I'm not trying to put pressure on anybody. Everything is going fine now. This last Sunday, we had many people who made a reservation. We have found over the last month or so that we have more people making a reservation who are canceling or just not coming. And so it's really helpful for us if you let us know if you can't come, even on Sunday morning. Most of the time, if you call on Sunday morning, I will probably answer the phone, but somebody will answer the phone. And so at least we know, and I can get that information to Benet and to the elders and Debbie O'Leary and whoever else is Donna Vorm helping out in the narthex, so that they can shift the plan and work on the seating arrangement. So it's very helpful if you'd let us know, if possible, if you can't come. We also ask that folks come a little earlier than normal, so that there's time for them to be safely ushered to their seat before the service begins. Sometimes we have people waiting to be ushered in. And again, as I mentioned earlier, if anyone is ill, we are asking them not to come to the live worship, the corporate worship in the church. Anyone in your family, we just prefer the whole family stay home. That's how we are going to do that. And as you know, we do ask for people to wear masks. I don't know what else to say about it. Nobody likes it. I don't like it, but I will say that I'm kind of getting used to it. And it's still in my mind a very small sacrifice to make in order for us to be able to gather safely together. Many of you appreciate that. Many of you don't, and feel it's a restriction on your liberties, and we understand all of those things. Session feels the same way, and yet, this is what we think is best at this time, and we will certainly continue to review it and change it when something comes. But that means also wearing the mask over your nose and your mouth. We really need everyone to do that. We're asking, please, that everyone would do that, and most everyone does. I did say there was some exceptions. If you're an asthmatic or have some other kind of condition, just let us know. We're not trying to pry into your personal medical history, but there are alternatives, and we can help with that. We're not offering Kids Kirk at this time. So we don't have any particular children's programming going on Sunday mornings. I know that restricts some families coming because it's hard to manage masks with your kids. And we get it. We do. One of our families that would prefer not to do that often worships through live stream out in the parking lot. And that allows their kids a chance to roam a little bit. And it's great. And of course, the weather's changing, and we'll see how that goes as that continues. But we do have some folks that live stream together outside in the parking lot on Sunday mornings, and that's been a lot of fun. We're not doing any food activities right now. Not because all food handling is unsafe, it's just that people have to be in such close proximity to one another in order to do it. So we haven't been doing food. We do have the nursery open, but the folks who are staffed there are there to help clean. So if you need to utilize the nursery, either because you're nursing or because you need a space to go with your child, we're expecting you to remain with your child during that time, and we have the speakers on so you can continue to hear the service. And we've got a lot of little ones right now, and a lot of them are coming, and so it's great. I love to hear the sounds of the babies and the toddlers in church. Not all of you do, I know that, but I love it. I think it's great. We have been celebrating the Lord's Supper. We've been trying to do it outside every month because everybody can participate no matter how many people sign up. You can drive in at the end of the service. You can be out in the parking lot and safely social distance. And so if you're not comfortable gathering corporately, but you are comfortable being outside, you can do that with the Lord's Supper. And so we've been doing that. Last month, we didn't do that because we had the threat of rain, and naturally it didn't rain. But we hope to be able to do that and do that as long as we can. So at least we got to practice once doing it inside, and that worked out great too. In fact, we live streamed it. We got some really wonderful comments about from folks who were home watching it on live stream and how much they appreciated being able to see us participate in the Lord's Supper, and they felt like they were there. So that was encouraging to me. Thank you, Marilyn Long, and others who made comments about that. In case you're wondering, we still have security at church. We don't have greeters, but we have our elders present. Most of them are serving in some capacity. And of course, we have ushers who are also masked like the rest of us, but wearing gloves so that they can be the ones that are opening and closing the doors and things like that. And we appreciate their willingness to do that, to wear the gloves and to wear the masks and to help us in that way. And so, show them your appreciation for their sacrifice to be here. Paul and Cheryl Kurtz have been organizing that effort since we started and doing a great job. We do not have an offering in the usual way. Of course, everybody knows that. Mark or whoever our worship leader is announces that, and so we're encouraging people to give online. But we do have the box in the narthex. So if you would like to give with cash or check, you can still do that and place it there in the narthex before or after the service. Part of the policy has to do with cleaning and sanitation. Since we only have one service, that's not a big deal for us right now. We can clean afterwards. Once we go to 2 services, we'll have to set up a new plan for that and need help with it in order to do it quickly enough to be able to turn around a second service. So at some point in the future, that'll be an issue for us as well. If you didn't notice, if you're here, what you see projected lyrics to the songs and the scripture. If you're at home on the live stream, like my family has been most every week, then you see slides on the live stream that they're not the same, and so that's how we do that. We've been doing projection during live public worship because we've removed and continue to have removed our Bibles and our pencils and our hymnals. Of course, you're free to bring your own Bible, and we love it. We love it when you bring your own Bible. But if you didn't bring yours or you forgot or whatever, we do have it projected, and And some people just like reading it up there, so that's great too. Yeah, so the next thing on our policy is the reasoning we would move to multiple services, and most likely, Session did have opportunity to talk about this a month or so ago, not this last Monday, but most likely, in order to keep the volunteer base reasonable and limited, we'll probably have the same service twice to start, but we'll talk more about that when we get there and see how that goes. The resources for worship are available on our website online, so that you can download the bulletin and the weekly. So don't forget about that. And B'nai Duff creates some special resources for our families at home as well. So that's great. So that's basically it in a nutshell. If you are new to Westkirk and you don't have that, I'd be happy to drop one in the mail to you, or attach it to an email. If you'd like a new copy, let me know, and we'll provide that for you as well. Let's see if I can minimize this, because I'm going to read on my other screen a little bit from our upcoming text here in a while. So those are the main points of our COVID policy. We are, for the most part, doing a great job with that, and we are really thankful. I think we have a good policy. Again, nobody likes it. I don't like it, but I think it has served us really well. Yes, other churches have made different decisions and do it differently. It's not really helpful for you to send me an email and tell me all the churches that do it differently. Everybody has to make a decision based on their facilities, all that sort of stuff. So we know, and we know it's a challenge, and it's been a struggle, and it's created some division and some frustration, and we appreciate that. Session wrestles with it, like I said, every month. We're frustrated with you. But on an encouraging note, that I actually received in the mail, snail mail, this week. Just read it, I guess it was yesterday, or maybe it was today. It encouraged me greatly. And so I'm not going to disclose the names and some of the details in the note, but I received a note from a couple that contacted the church and asked if they could come for corporate worship. And one of the things that we do, because we're a church and we want to still be welcoming to guests on Sunday mornings, is we make sure we have one or two spaces available if we have some guests come. And because of the COVID situation, people often call ahead or email us from the email on the website to find out if they can come. And we try very hard to be able to accommodate them. And this is a letter from a family that did that. It says, "Dear Reverend Mudloff, I want to thank you for making your church available to non-members for worship. It was a great experience and a pleasure for my wife and me to worship with others in person. We especially enjoyed your sermon. Coming from the, I won't say the name of their tradition, a mainline tradition, one that I was born into, which we'll be leaving after 30 years, it was enjoyable to listen to an expositional sermon." So they appreciated the same thing that most of us do, a lot of the reasons why we're here at Westkirk. "It was a great message given our current state of affairs. Again, thanks much." Of course, he was referring to a sermon from Habakkuk that was so relevant for us all in these days. So I was really encouraged by that, and I'm going to put it in my file of collectibles of COVID memorabilia among all of the things that we've collected. Lots of pictures of you and your kids at home watching the TV during church, and notes that have been sent to us, and the shirt that I received early on. It's just, it's been encouraging, and I'm thankful. So I wanted to share that with you, and I hope it is for you as well. Also wanted to mention, our treasurers are writing a letter to give you an update on our financial situation. So that will be coming soon. I haven't seen it yet, but they're close to finishing it, and then they'll pass it along to the session, and we'll look it over and and give them the okie dokie, and we'll put it in the mail to you. We know that some of you are wanting to know a little bit more about the financial situation here. You see the little blurb in the Shepherd, but some more details about that, what the trends are, what we're thinking. And our treasurers have looked at the trends now that we have been doing this long enough to have trends to discover how COVID may or may not have been impacting our giving, and how, especially now that we're planning our budget for next year, and how we're planning ahead. Many of you have asked, did you look into the PPP small business loan, and what was the decision on that? And so we'll cover all that in the letter, and so we've got that coming. I can't promise it'll be out this week. It probably will take a couple of weeks at least, because they're still working on it. But for those of you who want a little bit more details on finances, we'll have that coming soon. With that, I think many of you know that we are returning to the book of Acts on Sunday. I got a lot of people asking, why did we stop Acts and move to Habakkuk? And I said, well, I had planned for a little bit of break this summer. When I had been preparing in advance, I prepared a sermon series on the Song of Songs, or Song of Solomon, which most of you know is a love poem. And admittedly, after we got into COVID and into the summer, I just wasn't feeling a love poem. I just wasn't feeling it. And so I prayed, and I kept getting the input from various people, some of you, about the significance of Habakkuk. And so I prepared that 5-sermon series on Habakkuk instead, and it was wonderful. But we're heading back to Acts now. We're going to enter on Sunday chapter 12. I'm going to preach the whole chapter. So it's not a huge chapter, but it'll be long, of course, a whole chapter. And we think of chapter 12 as really beginning the second part of the book, which focuses primarily on Paul and the missionary journeys and the establishment of the church in Gentile lands. But chapter 12 is one of the last hurrahs on Peter. Peter is arrested yet again. And it is an amazing chapter. It's filled with all kinds of emotion. On the one hand, one of the apostles is killed by Herod. James. So we think of Peter, James, and John. It's James who is executed, who is martyred for the faith. And then Herod gets his at the end of the chapter. And it's an amazing rescue story, a tremendous reversal that takes place in this chapter from beginning to end. It's a great chapter. Read chapter 12. I hate to say you will enjoy it because James is killed, but it's just a fascinating, and there's even some humor in it. So it's great. I'd like to read the opening 5 verses for you tonight. About that time, Herod the king laid violent hands on some who belonged to the church. He killed James, the brother of John, with the sword. And when he saw that it pleased the Jews, so Herod's a politician, right? When he saw that it pleased the Jews, he proceeded to arrest Peter also. This was during the days of unleavened bread. And when he had seized him, he put him in prison, delivering him over to 4 squads of soldiers to guard him, intending after the Passover to bring him out to the people. So Peter was kept in prison, but earnest prayer for him was made to God by the church. And then for the bulk of the chapter, we have the story of Peter's rescue. I hope I didn't blow it for you, give away too much of the ending. And then at the very end of the chapter, we have a one-liner verse here that kind of brings us back to where we're going. And verse 25 says, "And Barnabas and Saul returned from Jerusalem when they had completed their service, bringing with them John, whose other name was Mark." And so you can tell how that verse there at the end of chapter 12 launches us into the rest of the book of Acts. But we get this exciting chapter about James being killed and the imprisonment and rescue of Peter there. So really looking forward to that. We'll be in Acts on and off for the rest of the year and into next year. We've got, of course, Reformation Sunday coming up and Advent coming up. but I'm excited to be back in Acts, and I hope you are as well. You all have a great evening. A longer message tonight. It's been a while since I gave you a long one, and I look forward to seeing you live or live stream on Sunday. Good night.